Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celsius 233, your go-to place for fiction book summaries. Today, we will unravel the story within The Education of Henry Adams by Henry Adams. The Education of Henry Adams, published posthumously in 1918, is an autobiographical reflection on the complexities of modernity by American historian and writer Henry Adams. Known for its philosophical insights and innovative structure, the book explores Adams' quest to understand the forces shaping his life and the evolving world around him. Unlike typical autobiographies, Adams presents his experiences not as personal achievements, but as a journey to comprehend the historical forces shaping society, emphasizing the challenges and paradoxes of the 19th and early 20th centuries. Plot summary. The birth of Henry Adams in 1838 on Boston's Beacon Hill seemed, to his young eyes, to secure his fate. With a lineage rooted in the American Revolution and a family steeped in the highest echelons of Boston society, his life was set to follow certain expectations. His great-grandfather was John Adams, the second United States president, and his grandfather, John Quincy Adams, had also presided over the country. But as Henry grew, he found himself wrestling with the sense that he was born into a world utterly different from the world of his ancestors, a world reshaped by railways, steam power, and telegraphs. This new world, he would come to realize, had no interest in the stable, old ideals his forebears upheld. In childhood, Henry lived in Quincy, Massachusetts, a town laced with history. His youthful days were spent between the harsh Boston winters and the idyllic summers of Quincy, where the rigid structure of Beacon Hill life gave way to freedom and nature. Yet even as a child, Henry saw the contrasts that shaped his life. Boston stood for law and discipline, Quincy for liberty. As he grew older, he would find his spirit caught in this tension between duty and freedom, between a world of strict order and the widening possibilities of his time. Following his grandfather's death, Henry was sent to Boston schools, where he was educated among children of Boston's elite. His father, Charles Francis Adams, though always a part of this society, was an individualist, and Henry admired his father's quiet independence, learning from him an aloof skepticism of popular opinion. His father's career took them to Washington, D.C. during the Civil War, where he served as Lincoln's ambassador to Britain. Henry joined him there, observing the diplomats and officials who filled their days with politicking. The young man's mind was often fixed on how unprepared he felt for the rapidly evolving world, despite his family's reputation and Boston education. After returning to America, Henry took on a post as his father's private secretary, traveling to Europe, where he observed the intellectuals and the old-world traditions that seemed to clash with the industriousness of modern America. Yet he returned to the United States with little sense of direction. In Boston, he attempted a career in law but found the occupation uninspiring. His mind, trained on ideas and history rather than practice, could not bend to the task. Seeking a different path, he turned to journalism, taking a position as an editor in Washington, D.C. Here, he found himself amidst debates and political squabbles that sharpened his wit and deepened his skepticism about politics and power. The years that followed saw him lecturing on history at Harvard and writing prolifically. But Henry's mind was drawn increasingly to science and the technological forces shaping the age. He saw power moving away from the ideas that had structured the previous century, faith, tradition, unity, and toward the abstract and impersonal might of technology. The steam engine, the telegraph, and most intriguingly, the dynamo, fascinated him. The dynamo, in particular, symbolized a force beyond human control, a power that seemed almost godlike, yet alien. In it, Henry saw the dawn of a new age, one defined by forces humanity could barely understand, let alone master. Despite his accomplishments and travels, Henry grew more troubled by the pace of change. Scientific advancement seemed to promise much, yet left him with a sense of unease. The shift from an era of unity, embodied by the medieval cathedral of Mont St. Michel, a subject of his study, to an era of multiplicity and fractured knowledge made him uneasy about the future. His time in Washington and at Harvard had not answered his deeper questions. What did progress truly mean? Could it bring meaning or understanding, or was it merely an accumulation of power without purpose? His anxieties deepened when his sister, Clover, fell ill, and he watched helplessly as she withdrew from life, haunted by depression. Her death marked him deeply, shaking his belief in the ordered, rational world of his father's time. From this point forward, Henry began to question not just the purpose of his education, but of human education as a whole. What value was learning when it could not save the people he loved or provide solace in times of grief? In response, he turned his attention to history with a new fervor, hoping to find in it a template for making sense of the world. In his later years, he became deeply engrossed in a study of medieval Europe, where he believed that a unifying force, the Virgin Mary, held society together. The Virgin, as he saw her, was a symbol of unity, an emblem of purpose that contrasted sharply with the cold, mechanical power of the dynamo. In this study, he traced the evolution of faith and unity in a world that no longer knew such certainties. It was an age that could grasp both science and faith without tearing itself apart, a skill he found increasingly rare in his own era. But as he reached the twilight of his life, Henry found himself no closer to answers. The question of purpose in an era of relentless change, the tension between faith and science, left him in a kind of intellectual exile. The more he studied the dynamo, the more he felt himself estranged from the world around him. He saw others embracing new ideologies, new technologies, and yet he clung to the hope that perhaps history held answers, that by understanding the past, he might glimpse a way forward. He died in 1918, leaving his reflections behind in this work, a record not just of one man's life, but of a quest to reconcile the past and future. Henry's journey through history and science, faith and skepticism, ends unresolved, capturing the uncertainties of a new age that he would not live to see fulfilled. His life, shaped by privilege, history, and intellect, was a search for education that would grant understanding in an era of contradictions. And so his education, unfinished and incomplete, mirrors the journey of a world that continues to wrestle with the same forces today. That's it for today, but if you're looking for more great reads, dive into other books by Henry Adams. Details are in the description or on Celsius 233. Remember, while our summaries capture the essence, they can never replace the full experience of reading the book. If this summary intrigued you, consider diving into the complete story, buy the book, and immerse yourself in Henry Adams's original work. Bye-bye, take care, have fun.